Hi there, I'm back again. I have just barely completed the Horror Beast on my second attempt with the Bard and the Tinkerer in Masked Darkness 2. I think that scenario is just a little whack because it depends on like which monster you get. I got the ghoul this time. And as you can see from all the fire on it, I ended up beating it with a flaming sword, demonic gauntlets, um, some holy hand explosives, and a little bit of cheating because I did not have a lot of luck. Like, basically, three attacks, three attacks in a row. This thing rolled, no joke, three attacks in a row. This thing rolled seven shields, seven shields, and I couldn't get anything in edgewise. Like it should have been winnable more easily, but it wasn't. But anywho, I have now played a full scenario with each of the 10 character classes in Massive Darkness 2, and I'm here to talk about them. And the thing that I love about this game and the reason that I'm so into it is with such simple things, they've made these 10 classes play so completely different from each other and so much more asymmetrically than I don't know, just so many dungeon crawlers that I have. Like they're so different than anything in Cthulhu Death May Die. They're so different than anything in Agamonia. They're so different than anything in Chronicles of Drunagor. Gloomhaven, Frosthaven comes close, but also like even though the abilities in that are so different, like the mechanic is the same. You pick a top, you pick a bottom. You pick a top, you pick a bottom. But here, everybody is totally different. And I don't know how these are going to rank out because I haven't really given it much thought. So you're going to see my top 10 form in real time just based on how I just managed to lay these cards out in front of me. So let's start with Sir Ronan the Paladin. So the Paladin has this whole mechanic where you you have these three consecrated areas, right? And it costs magic to put a consecrated area somewhere in your line of sight. And one of them helps to assist with movement, and one helps to assist with defense, and one helps to assist with attack. Now, in addition to that, you put his skill cards, their skill cards, underneath each of those three consecrations. And the skill cards only take effect for him when he's in that consecration. You level on top of that. At the beginning of each turn, he picks one of those cards to flip over to a stronger version and create a blessing. And what that means is the paladin doesn't get to be that reactionary. You really need to plan ahead and really figure out like what cards you're going to want to bless with, what you're not going to want to bless with, if you're going to use it for yourself, if you're going to use it for your teammates. And it's so tactical. And I usually don't like paladins, but I really dug this paladin. I really dug it. Lots of choice there. Next class, the Ranger. The Ranger stuff all has to do with a push your luck mechanic, where you draw cards from a pile and you rack up arrows. And if you get 7 arrows exactly, you get a bullseye, which gives you a better proc on all the cards that you drew. But if you go over 7, you get a bad proc, which might hurt you. If you go under 7, you don't do as much damage. I like push your luck mechanics generally, but the problem with this Ranger in this game is I already have such bad luck with the dice that I then sometimes have some pretty bad luck with the range mechanics as well. But that all said, it's a really fun like mini game that you get to play with yourself. And I could just picture if I was doing this with a team of people, you'd be like, should I draw one? Should I draw one? Should I draw one? And then they tell you to, and then you draw a bad one. You're like, see, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, you're the Ranger. You decide what to draw, blah, blah, blah. I like it less than the Paladin, but I still really enjoy it, and I feel like I'm going to enjoy it more when I have friends here that play the game, that play this with me. Next, we have the Berserker. The Berserker has a mechanic by which every time they take damage, they get rage, and then they can use that rage to trigger an attack stance, a movement stance, and a defense stance, and the cards that are related to that. Some of them can only go with a specific stance, some of them can go with any stance. The Berserker is a really solid, straightforward character. It's probably who I would give, one of the ones I would give to for somebody who's not quite as adept at games to kind of get a handle on all of this. At the beginning, the Berserker's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I got some damage. But when you get later on in the scenario, and your bar is always full, and you get to trigger all these attacks, you can have some really, really power turns. That said, it's not really for me. I'm going to put it underneath the Ranger, but it's the most straightforward of them all to begin for my sanity's sake. The Wizard has this. I'm not going to go pick it up. The Wizard has this nifty dial that you level. He has basic spells on each of the four cardinal directions of the dial, and then you get cards, and you can replace each of those slots with another spell that's stronger, and then you can use magic to advance the wheel to the spell that you want to use. The thing that's a little bit about the magician, the wizard, is that you end up having one or two spells that you always want to cast, and then use the rest of your mana to just kind of move the wheel around towards those spells. But the economy of, do I have enough mana to do that? How do I get enough mana to do that? This specific wizard can use an action to get 3 mana back, and just knowing the right way to like advance and de-advance that wheel to really like maximize things is the kind of thing that I like to do in a game. I like, in these kinds of games, resource management and tempo management. I'm going to place the wizard above the ranger, but strangely still below the paladin. The paladin's still my favorite of this bunch. Next, we have the Necromancer. The Necromancer is one of the expansion mechanics, which I did not do a recording of today. The Necromancer has a shadow track, and every time you kill something, in addition to getting experience, your shadow track goes up. And the further you are up on the shadow track, the more kind of passive abilities you have, but also you spend those shadow track abilities in order to utilize your other skills. Now, today I only took a look at the Raised Skeleton skill, which lets you have an army of skeletons follow around that try to attack things before your attack roll. You can also resurrect dead leaders, dead roaming monsters, and do all this kind of cool stuff to just kind of like, part of it buffs your health and defense of the team, part of it buffs your attack strength. The thing that I loved, though, when you have Raised Skeleton up to level 3, and each of those claws does 2 damage, and then you get to roll 6 dice because you have 6 of those things. Fighting a boss, I think I did, in one round, I did like 24 damage with this, which was wild. So it was just me having good luck for once in my life, because I usually don't. But wild. Necromancers are something I tend to really like. Yeah, we're putting him at the top right now. But we'll see how that holds up as we talk about the Rogue. The Rogue is the character that I played during one of my intro videos. I then played it again a little bit later and tried a different build strategy with it. I love the way the Rogue works, because there's something very random about pulling all of these little tokens out of the Rogue's bag. But you get to do that before you make choices as to what you decide to do with your turn. And if you've watched some other videos of mine and see others coming up, one of the things that I really love is like rolling and then assigning dice. Like, I love that in Fate Forge. I'm looking really forward to that in Grim Coven. I like the kind of reverse way that works in Too Many Bones. And the Rogue, even though it's not with dice, does the same thing with these tokens. And I love pulling things out of a grab bag like Arkham Horror. You know, I'm usually not a rogue, but I really, really, really like the Rogue in this game. We're going to put the Rogue up at number 1 so far. Next we have Bards. My name is Greg, and if there's a bard in the game, a bard is the first character that I want to play. I like to be bards. I like to make up songs for the bards, which I didn't even do today because just figuring out the bard's mechanic in this game is definitely the most complicated one. I just was never really able to get the songs to trigger the way I wanted to. If you see my hate play from earlier, he did basically nothing. In this latest play, all that he really did was run around the map and collect items and then bring them back to give to the Tinkerer, who we'll get to in a bit. Usually I really love bards, and here the bard is at the bottom. Now, I'm definitely going to play a bard a little bit more because I tend to love bards, but here it just didn't do it for me. Next, we have the Shaman. The Shaman has an elemental track. And whenever the shaman would gain mana, instead you can put up a token on this mana track. Now, if any of the 4 elements gets to its maximum, you can deplete them all for a permanent passive bonus. You can also spend them to trigger effects on different cards. Some of those are summoning minions, some of those are heals, things like that. I didn't really get to delve too far into the shaman because I was still kind of getting my mind around the game. But it has kind of the plan ahead type of functionality as the paladin and the wizard, but also this whole like double level up mechanic with minions. We love minions. We love all this stuff. I'm putting it below the necromancer for now, but I think it has the potential to get further up on my tier list. Next, we'll talk about the monk. Hi, I'm a monk. The monk has a hand of cards called chakras. And then at the beginning of each of their turns, they play a chakra, which will do something, and it gets stronger based on how many chakras are in your discard pile and your active area. So the longer you wait to play a chakra, the more effect it will have. However, some of the chakras work very well when there's nothing in the discard pile, and some don't do anything when there's nothing in the discard pile. And some of the chakras just seem kind of useless. Then eventually you use a chakra that lets you heal for everything that is and take it back into your hand. I really didn't get a feel for the tempo of it very much. I know that the monk has these abilities that let you get extra tokens to add to your attacks, and I was able to sometimes do damage that way when I was storing up enough of that. I'll call it chi, because it's a monk. When I was storing up enough of that chi, but I just really just couldn't really dig into it, and I didn't really have fun playing it. And we're going to put it underneath the Berserker. Now, what's sad here is you see 2 of the 4 expansion classes are right at the bottom. That's not to say that this isn't going to change. This is all based on basically one gameplay and only solo play. Finally, we have the Tinker. The Tinker, you might have seen this in my hate play earlier, gets to draw a token out of the bag at the start of each of their turns, and then they get to use that to use various effects or gizmos if you have the gizmo thing equipped, which is how I played. I also, in the second play, I ended up unlocking Guardians, which are like little mini minions that can be decoys, can sometimes do other things. You can do something to turn them into bombs, and then the bombs will explode. But if there's no monster in the area when the bomb explodes, it really doesn't do anything. But when you get to these higher level gizmos, such as Holy Hand Explosion, add 1 fire to 1 enemy in range, and then resolve all fire on that enemy using orange instead. And you also happened to have a flaming sword and demonic gauntlets. And you also happen to have an epic token which lets you use a lucky coin to add 1 more action to your turn. So you got to add 8. So you got to add 8 fire just by attacking, and then toss a holy hand grenade to make it 9 fire, and then you're rolling 9 orange dice where they'd have no defense against it. And that was like a wild, crazy combo that just happened to come up with the cards that I pulled. But I can only imagine how much more flexibility there is here. I didn't even explore the exoskeleton tree, which allows you to, I just bounced behind my camera that I pulled in close here so you can see things better, which is a completely different build. Now, the one thing I don't like about the Tinker, all of the other classes, I always felt like, even though I was trying to specialize in one tree to see how far it got, I always felt like, oh, if I dabble here and I dabble here, I can make a pretty decent build. And from what I saw of the Tinker, it feels like you really need to just commit to a path and stick to it, because the lower level versions of things just won't cut it. However, I had a total blast with it. I struggled with it. It was so hard to figure out. But for right now, I am going to put it... I'm going to put it at second, because I feel like there was just so much to explore. And I'm kind of surprised by that, actually, because I'm surprised by this list in general, because it really doesn't line up with my normal playlist. You know, we have Rogue, Tinkerer, Necromancer, Shaman, Paladin, Wizard, Ranger, Berserker, Monk, Bard. Okay, interesting. Now, if I was going to predict, just based on knowing me, how this would have played out, it would have been So remember this: rogue, tinkerer, necromancer, shaman, paladin, wizard, ranger, berserker, monk, bard. I would have pictured it being something more like this. With only the monk still at the bottom. So bard, necromancer, wizard, berserker, shaman, rogue, tinkerer, ranger, paladin, monk. This game has like shattered my norms. It shattered my norms. And like, you know, I don't know how much my brain could handle more than this. I still want the druid. The druid costs too much money. I still want the druid. But I just I think I like this more than like any of the campaign dungeon crawlers I have. These characters are just so fun to play, and the skills are just so seamless, and the builds are just there, and I just love it. And I wish I had gotten in on the original Kickstarter of it. Big thumbs up for me for Massive Darkness 2. I mean, especially when just a few hours ago I played what I call a hate play, and I really like just got smashed and hated it. And when I just barely won that same scenario, I also had a terrible time with this scenario. But I think it was just the construct of it and the way the boss thing worked, because everything else has just been like so stellar. And for me to hate an experience and still be like, but I love this so much. Like, that's what I want out of games. I want to be challenged. I want to get frustrated. I want to throw my phone across the room, which I can't because it's linked up here. But I want to still have a great time and still, like, be able to wait to come back to it. Like, I can't wait to come back to this game tomorrow, even though it's a total mess right now because I pushed everything off to the side to do this video and I'm late for walking the dogs. But Massive Darkness 2, big thumbs up from Greg. So with that all said, don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to sing a few ditties. Don't forget to tinker around with some robots. But most importantly, don't forget to keep those health bars full. Thank you and have a great night.